Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door is the second installment of a JRPG series by Intelligent Systems, a Japanese game developer known for Advanced Wars, Fire Emblem, and WarioWare? When does this one become a strategy game? The first two Paper Mario games were bestsellers and are still hailed for their unique visuals, memorable stories, and Chuck Quizmo. With the Switch being a few years into its lifespan and rumors of a new Paper Mario entry after some poorly received sequels, I wanted to take a stab at reviewing the first GameCube title I ever owned and my favorite game of all time. So welcome to a series I'm calling If You Can't Play Something Nice. It's a new breed of game reviews with double the sugar and half the spice. Instead of mimicking the bloated market of cynical reviews, I'm challenging myself to beat a game, track my losses, and say one nice thing for each time I fail. For this episode, that means every time I get a game over, I have to say one nice thing about Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door. I know what you're thinking. I'm not taking much of a risk here. And you're right. With a gimmick like this, there are bound to be videos that push the triple digits at best. Paper Mario, though, come on. These are critically hailed for a reason, and they're entry-level titles for their genre. They're easy, and there's nothing but good things to say about them. So with that in mind, I bumped every enemy's health up by 50%. Not so bad when you're up against early mobs like Goombas, but Bonetail. It's a lot of meat on them bones. Next, I've got a randomizer that shuffles every non-quest essential item, making it completely random what you'll get from secrets, quests, and chests.
Wow! Gold and common!
This can severely break the balance of the game in some cases. On one hand, I don't think it's possible to get this many copies of Power Rush. On the other, I went 6 chapters without these two must-have badges, which are normally found in Chapter 1. Anyway, if you want tutorials on either of these mods, check the description for some links, and without any further ado, let's see what I'm in for. This little map has some of the most nostalgic locations I can think of. They've each got such a well-contained motif and story to them. Rogueport. This place, it's a crime place. There's a guard who extorts you for cash. To get to 2 main quest locations, Mario has to deal with the Mafia. They were shooting for a record on how fast you can set the tone in a hub world. Mr. Miyamoto-san, yes, is this, you're cool with this though, right?
思ったのが
You're into this.
踏むのは難しいなって
Because I just think ESRB is going to be like, they're going to have complaints.
マリオの3D のマリオっていろんなことができる代わりに
This could get shelved in America, Shigeru.
マリオ64になるときに
The cool factor goes way up with each location stemming from the hub world. Petalburg? It's a pretty ordinary tale of a village plagued by an evil dragon in a creepy castle. Boggly Woods? It's Bug's Life, I will not clarify. The Glitz Pits, gamers, is where you start thinking, alright, this one's pretty epic. Because fighting pits are a staple of good games, and you can't tell me I'm wrong.
Victor from the blue team, leave the arena now and rest. You earned it.
Now Twilight Town, it's kinda like Petalburg, only this village was already super depressing. So that was the default. Thing is, they found a way to get worse, and Mario has to go on a European fairy tale adventure to fix it. Not the cute ones, though. I'm talking about, like, Brothers Grimm shit. Like witches eating children kind of fairy tales. Scary forest, haunted church. These things are like shiny Pokemon if shiny Pokemon nuked you on turn 1.
Fly, you fools!
And that's already cool, but like, wait, Prankster Ghost? True name magic as a plot device?
I am Usador, wizard of the 12th realm of Ephesius.
From there, it's like the game's telling you there's no way it gets cooler. But wait, Tropical Island with a spooky pirate cove, cross-country train mystery, Arctic outpost with Russian bob-ombs.
Clear the launchway, man! We're taking this baby to the moon!
It's non-stop globetrotting through fantastical worlds, all of which rely on and build upon classic Mario characters you know and love. They even make their own additions to the universe that don't feel out of place, and I would love to see in Mario Maker 2. Let's get hyped for this next DLC, boys. This game is a brilliant sequel. On the surface and at its core, Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door is largely the same game as its predecessor. Normally that's a turnoff. You know, I'm not into copy-pasting things with a few minor tweaks. There's no shortage of characters that are straight-up doppelgangers and rehashes of the last game, but in spite of that, I think this game's a masterclass in a sequel raising the stakes. The bones of the last story, the companions, quest, and settings, are similar, but amped up. I mean, let's go from Bombette to Bobbery. Bombette is a bomb that wants revenge on a ripoff of the Ninja Turtles because they threw her in jail. Admiral Bobbery, he's a famed naval hero, but hasn't been seen in years. Just to get him to join your party, you have to address his unresolved guilt over the death of his wife. Without ruining it for you, this pre-quest mission is better than the rest of the chapter. It's a hot emotional knife and I am a butter sculpture. No! And Bobbery's just one of 3 companions who are major improvements over their counterparts, each with a way bigger emotional stake than their earlier iterations. Koops, for example, is a rehash of Cooper, and just look at him. What a pair of boys. Cooper's a darling, sure, but he lacks depth. He's a bit of a shell of a character. His motivation falls flat. Cooper joins Mario's quest after Mario finds his shell and gives him the gift of modesty. Koops, despite his shell, still wears a hoodie and shorts. Does he feel shame? Does he think other Koopas are nude? Is his mayor nude? The implications off the bat are astounding. Such depth. His shameful and nervous nature aren't just in the clothes, though. No, his dialogue alone makes it clear that he's a nervous wreck living in the shadow of his missing father. His father, by the way, presumed dead in the castle of Big Bad Hooktail, the first chapter's villain. So on a quest to save and/or avenge his long-lost father, Koops feels less like an excuse just to add shell toss to your repertoire, and more like a character around which the chapter is based. And of course, who could forget everyone's favorite shadow waifu, Vivian? For those of us who played the English version of this game, Vivian's already a great step up for Paper Mario companions. She's a secondary antagonist at the game's beginning, the black sheep of a trio of shadow sirens who harangue Mario and try to steal his Lucky Charms. In the second chapter, we see her fighting alongside her sisters, Marilyn and Beldam. Beldam relentlessly abuses Vivian, calling her ugly, gaslighting her, and threatening her. Through a series of twists in Twilight Town, one of my favorite chapters, Vivian reconsiders her allegiances and joins Mario's quest. In the end, after thwarting her sister's dark intentions, Vivian finds her confidence and rejoins the Shadow Sirens, who've turned a new leaf and won't be evil ever again. It's a nice W. Bush redemption arc. Good job, Beldam. Good job. Fun fact, though. Vivian is canonically a trans woman in every version of the game except English. I can't say it's flawlessly executed, but Nintendo's always hit or miss with their queer representation. Usually a miss, but
I didn't know it was gonna come off like that. Pretty sure you did.
In the literal Japanese translations, Vivian is scolded with male pronouns for calling their trio the Shadow Sisters rather than the Shadow Siblings, and is misgendered by Beldam with emphasis as an insult. They claim to have removed it for ESRB concerns, but I will remind you, there is a noose in town square. The main story is, of course, a step in a darker direction, and that's a vibe we get right off the bat. Paper Mario started with Bowser crashing a party and hanging out in his sky castle doing nothing of consequence, honestly. And I know I'm normalizing kidnapping and abusing women, but after like 30 games where that's the core plot point, that ceases to be my problem. Thousand Year Door starts with Peach going missing in the prologue, vanishing without a trace in a city that's literally overrun with criminals. Like an upper-class geocacher in East St. Louis, she goes missing in the middle of a treasure hunt. The culprits? This entry's dark fantasy cyber cultists, the X-Nauts. When all's said and done, it's not just Peach's life that's on the line, it's the fate of the entire world. And Bowser, the first game's primary villain, is demoted to a goofy B-plot character. The X-Nauts are such a dark step for villainy in this franchise that the writers thought, we can't do them like this. Bowser's not that evil, right? Right? This game has 4 collectathons that, while totally optional, are perfect for the completionist player: the cookbook, catalog, badge list, and help board. The cookbook sends you off on a quest through wiki pages and far corners of the map, all so you can fill out 57 recipe slots on the journal tab.
A new hand touches the beacon.
And the recipes have some pretty interesting bonuses beyond health and flower power restoration. My favorite is Trial Stew, which upon consumption, nukes you and your partner to 1 HP. More on that later. The catalog is this game's bestiary, with entries for every enemy written by your first companion, an anthropology major named Goombella.
Everywhere I go, I see his face.
Earning a book full of these little entries requires you to rethink how you approach every single fight. You'll have to find a way to keep Goombella on the field, and blow a turn analyzing the target before continuing the fight. Next, we got the badge list. Badges are collectibles, buyables, whatever you wantables that operate on a budget. To equip a badge, you spend badge points. These do all sorts of things like add new moves, alter stats, and some are even aesthetic, like changing your outfit or the sound effects of your attacks. And of course we have the help board, a collection of side quests on Rogueport's east side. I didn't really appreciate it as a kid. I mean, running errands, fetch quests, ugh. What's the point if you don't get anything out of it? I said, not 3 years after 100%ing Mario 64, my reward for which was a chat with Yoshi. Don't even get to ride him, oh, there he goes! See you in Mario Kart 64! Being a little older and a little wiser, I found I actually really appreciate the help board. Yeah, the rewards may be cheap sometimes, negligible at best, but I had no idea there was a 7th optional partner that you unlocked just from doing the help board. I mean, that's really cool. Who even knew you could play as the Golden Warthog? When I first beat this game, I was floored by how badly I wanted it to just keep going. And that's what the help board gave me. I had to make sure every corner of this game was tapped, every moment cherished, every dialogue read aloud. And in this beautiful game that had me laughing and crying, that meant bashing a rat over the head for some money. One of the coolest parts of a 1000-Year Door playthrough is committing to the gauntlet that is the Pit of 100 Trials. It's 100 floors of escalating difficulty, fighting enemies over and over with little reprieve and no means of saving your progress. You can check out at some floors, but you'll have to fight all the way back here, all over again. And waiting for you at the end is a hell of a fight. Even in this run where we had phenomenal badges for massive damage output, Bonetail has 50% extra health. He's harder than the Shadow Queen already, the game's final boss, and no matter how stacked you are, one wrong move could mean game over with a glass cannon setup like ours. And that kind of pressure, those stakes, that's what the pit is. It's the anxiety of getting 75 floors deep and seeing one of the, I hate these things so much. It's the pain of failing just 20 floors from Bonetail and starting all over. It's knowing that if you didn't do everything right, you're coming back here from floor 1. But most of all, it's the pride and accomplishment of beating Bonetail. It's taking the Return to Sender badge, it's heading up to the 1000-Year Door, hitting that save block with a few extra levels under your belt. Nobody can take that from you now, because you have etched your name onto the bits and bytes of the, no, stop, just stop. I mentioned the glass cannon build a second ago, so maybe I should explain just how this game plays before I talk about the ways to play it. The combat in this game is just a perfect set of improvements over the last title. Your companion has health to manage, independent of your own, which on one hand is damage Mario doesn't have to take, but on the other, life shrooms will automatically use themselves when your companion goes down, so say goodbye to those. The stage play aesthetic goes even further this time to allow stylish bonuses for extra star power, and brings with it an audience that rewards you for doing well. The audience also punishes you for screwing up or taking too long to pick a move, so remember that. Stage hazards can also come from every direction, damaging Mario or his enemies or both of you. Overall, the enhanced stage fighting gives you more to do and keeps you on your toes. I love it. The Crystal Stars, not unlike the Star Spirits from the last game, are basically a series of 7 superpowers you get as rewards for progressing through the story. Now, unlike the Spirits, the Crystal Stars require at least a modicum of effort to get the desired effect, bringing a needed dose of interactivity. These attacks can be offensive or supportive, outright nuking enemies, or teeing up the next leg of the fight in Mario's favor. For a bare-bones JRPG, the badges and perk selections in this game offer a fair amount of variety in how you want to play. On this playthrough though, my girlfriend and I immediately knew, just from our first badge, what we wanted to do. Glass cannon. We all know the trope, lethal, but fragile. For the entire run, we never upgraded our health, only badge points, and one shot of flower power. With Power Rush and Mega Rush, we're doing exponentially higher damage as long as we're below half health. At 1 HP, we do an unthinkable amount of damage.
Stop! He's already dead!
We even lowered our defense to get higher damage output, making this run a double-edged sword of killing in one blow, but also dying in one blow. It was super fun. I highly recommend trying it. This game is gorgeous. And that's an easy thing to say, but what I mean is the developers in graphic design and animation took the paper aesthetic to a really impressive degree this time around. With the horsepower in this year's GameCube, it's easy to look at the paper gimmick and think, what were they, lazy? Didn't want to design 3D things? But paper doesn't have to mean 2D. After all, we're paper characters in a 3D world, and sometimes it's not enough to just make an enemy bigger. To capture the monstrous terror in some of these bosses, they make grandiose models that actually look like paper-crafted beasts. They're 3D creatures made of 2D materials, which builds upon the paper motif but doesn't betray it. Cortez, for example, looks like an origami skull. The dragons are these intricate beasts made of ribbons. The big bad Shadow Queen is a twisty, curly, dare I say wispy monster that captures the demon look as best as paper can, all without taking the easy route and just making her a 2D sprite, but bigger. This may not be specific to Thousand Year Door, but I love how the paper element is an interactive part of the world too. Squeezing between gaps by turning sideways and becoming an origami boat to sail down a river, scrunching up like a spring to make an incredible leap. It's all so much more present in this game. You know, you are the Paper Mario. One of my favorite quirks about Rogueport is this little alleyway that tricks you with just basic depth perception. Like, I remember my friend showing me this when I was 8. You might as well have just synced the game up to Dark Side of the Moon. Like, my mind was blown.
Run, rabbit, run.
This game is funny. I don't know how else you want me to say it. The game is funny. I won't say Nintendo's a stranger to comedy, but the newer games have clearly embraced a younger writing team that's leagues better than years past. They know how to wedge a good joke in. But Thousand Year Door, 16 years old now, stands out to me as one of the first hilarious Nintendo games I can remember playing. Despite how dark the game feels against the rest of the Mario franchise, the bits in this game are really good. I think some of my favorites are the power-ups, where evil spirits in black chests curse you with very helpful abilities. With a point like this, I can't ruin every punchline, so please, just go play the game, it's very funny. You've been hearing it in the background this whole time, but I would be remiss if I didn't talk about how incredible the soundtrack was in this game. Now don't get me wrong, the Paper Mario 64 soundtrack is great, if you listen to the first 7 seconds of every song. I put this game down when I was 8 years old. A childhood friend of mine introduced me to it, I loved it, and I was terrible at it. It took my cousin and I an entire week of a summer vacation just to get to the end of the Shadow Queen's palace, the foot of the final boss, and I couldn't do it. I ring up my buddy Scott, I'm like, hey, please come beat this very hard boss for me. And come to find out, even he can't beat it, because in his words, I think I soft-locked the game with just how badly I allocated my stats. I did learn, like last week, that you can actually move your stats around with Chet Rippo in the Rogueport sewers, but I didn't know that as a kid, and neither did GameFAQs. So there it sat, an entry on my proverbial shelf, gathering dust, until I sold it to GameStop for like 12 cents. And Monopoly for the PS2. But flash forward about 12 years later, and I'm visiting my girlfriend at college. It's something I did every single weekend. She's smart, she had a full ride, and I was broke. Not like Bright Flight broke, but like middle class broke. Community college broke. The third of 4 kids broke. So every weekend, for the 2 years it took to get my associates, I visited her dorm. When those 2 years were almost over, and we were on our last semester of our sophomore year, that's when we booted up the Thousand Year Door. And every weekend, for a few months, We'd spend hours playing through this game we both started as kids but never finished. But 12 years is a long time. I forgot a lot about this game, not having touched it once since I got stuck at the final boss. It's like we were both experiencing it for the first time all over again, but with that vague nostalgia that has you thinking, I remember this next part being so good, we gotta keep playing just a little bit longer. And of course, it had to end. We got to the ending, we had a good cry, we loved it. And I'm not sure how, but we just agreed we need to play this again. But we set a limit on ourselves. We said we can't do it again this year. We have to wait. We'll get burned out. So now, every year, starting January 1st, we're allowed to play Thousand Year Door again. And we've been doing this for 4 years now. It's almost half the time we've been together. Almost. I don't often think of us as having a movie or even a song, but I know we have a game. And I love that that's something we can call our own. Hang on, how many was that? I was supposed to do 20 of these? Fuck it. Dupree's number 20. Nice outfit, huge pervert. Why is he blue? Unsolved mysteries. A+, 5 stars, look at him go. Thanks for watching. I'm gonna see if I can make more of these. It took me a month. Took me a month to make this, so maybe I got time for more. Next time I'm gonna do Metal Gear 2, Sons of Liberty. Highest difficulty, try not to get spotted. Also, I have a podcast. I have 2 podcasts. I think I have 3. I'm a white guy in my 20s. It's hard to count. But you can look at those here. I probably have links on my channel or something. Yeah, hopefully this was a good sales pitch. Go play this game. It means a lot to me.